Hello, ghouls and ghoulies. Welcome to Scary and Bizarre Short Stories. I'm your host, Larry Lee Roten. This is a horrid tale of something beautiful that cannot be had. The story is called The Ghost of Maud DeAngelo. This story is about a beautiful mansion called the Franklin Estate, owned by Carter and April Franklin. The home in its own right was lovely, spacious, and extravagant. The owners spared no expense in building their mansion, paying attention to every detail. The inspiration to make such a beautiful home mainly came from Carter's wife, April. April was beautiful, young, and had a heart of pure gold. She cared for everyone and sought the best in the people she met. She was truly inspiring, and Carter Franklin loved her beyond words. After the builders completed the magnificent house, Carter and April moved into their new home. It was, as expected, fantastic. April spent days selecting furniture, lamps, and accessories for her home. As she decorated each room, it stood as a reminder of how wonderful life could be. Finally, as anticipated, April decorated the last of the 21 rooms. The house was remarkable in every way. April and Carter hosted an enormous dinner party, inviting friends and acquaintances, showing off their beautiful home. It was indeed a spectacular occasion. Days turned into months, and the months slipped into years, and Carter and April couldn't have been happier. Their lives were like fairy book stories, which ended with the words, "And they lived happily ever after." However, this would not be Carter and April's story. 5 years later, Carter and April went abroad to Italy. There they shopped for items to enhance their home and souvenirs to remind them of years past in the old world of Italy. However, as happy as they were, their lives were about to change drastically. Carter and April found two ornate gates in a quaint little antique shop in Rome. They were thick and decorative and made of heavy brass, just what they needed to encase the two double doors entering the estate's grand hall. The gates would provide protection and a touch of old Italy to the front of their home. What came with the gates was nothing short of terrifying. Carter had the gates shipped home and installed on the front of their home. Carter and April were overjoyed when they arrived at their mansion and found the magnificent gates installed. The morning after returning home, April woke to a loud noise. It was early morning, and she and Carter rose to investigate the sound. One of the gates was slamming shut and swinging open, only to slam again. Carter assured April that he had locked the gates before locking the two interior wooden doors. However, one was open and slamming shut against its frame, making a loud noise. Carter pulled the gate closed and locked it once more. Later that morning, they found the gate standing open. Carter inspected the lock on the gates and locked both securely. He then pushed on the barriers, pleased to see they wouldn't open. He was satisfied the workers installed the locks and gates correctly. The following night, Carter and April awakened to the gates slamming again. Carter was upset as he had ensured the gates were locked securely before closing and locking the interior doors. He couldn't figure out what was unlocking the gates. The paranormal activity continued, and Carter was determined to find out why. He called the antique shop in Italy and inquired about the gates. The antique dealer told Carter the gates came from a local cemetery, and they were attached at one time to a tomb belonging to a couple who had died years ago. Their names were John and Maud DeAngelo. Carter had asked the dealer why the gates were removed from someone's tomb. The antique dealer replied, "I don't know." As the days went by, the brass gates became a mystery. It was impossible to keep them locked during the night. Each morning they were found standing open. To Carter's dismay, the mystery began to grow. Each morning, not only were the brass gates found unlocked and standing open, but Carter also found the interior wooden doors the same, unlocked and opened, allowing full access to the estate while Carter and April slept. As the phenomenon worsened, no matter what they did, the doors to the estate would not stay closed. Carter was beside himself. He decided to remove the brass gates and get rid of them. He did that. However, the paranormal activity didn't stop. What was now attached to the brass gates was inside the Franklins' home. Something was moving the furniture, and strange sounds echoed throughout the house at night. They heard footsteps walking on the wooden floors and soft moans. April became terrified, and Carter had no clue how to rid his home of the ghostly intruder. As time went by, April started seeing the apparition of a woman haunting her new home. At first, she would catch glimpses of the ghost from the corner of her eye. Then it worsened. The ghostly figure of a woman started haunting April, whispering her name. The spirit would move April's clothes and knock her makeup onto the bath floor. At night, Carter would be sleeping and April would suddenly awake to find an old woman bending over her as if studying her. April would scream and the apparition would disappear. Carter would wake up only to find April crying and screaming. Carter called in a paranormal investigator and a shaman. The investigator only confirmed a supernatural phenomenon in their home. Carter and April knew that. The shaman called on the ghostly apparition, broke off the session, and left the estate. She didn't speak to Carter or April. She rose from her chair and left. Carter tried to contact her, but his efforts failed. Carter hired another paranormal investigator who claimed to have extrasensory perception. She could see and communicate with the dead. After her encounter, she explained what was happening to Carter and April. The gates came from her tomb, and she wanted them put back. Carter agreed to return the gates to Italy and have them installed on the mausoleum. However, that wasn't all the ghostly spirit wanted. She had watched April and didn't like her. She had become jealous of April's home, and even more so of her affection for Carter. Maud DEANGELO told the investigator she wanted April dead or removed from the estate. The investigator tried to reason with the old woman, but to no avail. She told Carter that April's attacks would become more frequent and more violent if April wasn't removed from the house. The old woman's spirit was now attached to the estate, and she was there to stay. Carter was beside himself. He loved April and their new home, but these supernatural attacks on April had to stop. He shipped the gates back to Italy and reinstalled them on the old woman's resting place. However, the ghost of Maud DeAngelo didn't leave Carter in April's house. She stayed. Maud's spirit continued to torment April. As the days passed, the mansion's front doors would be open, although Carter had removed the brass gates. April's makeup was found scattered over the bathroom floor. Her clothes were pulled from their hangers, ripped, and destroyed. Maud began to attack April, leaving scratches on her back and arms. Maud would scream at April, telling her to leave the house. She would say, "Leave this house." Carter and April left their estate. This, of course, pleased Maud. However, she hadn't wanted Carter to leave. Not having Carter's presence in the house only made Maud more distraught. The beautiful house sat empty for months until Carter gave the estate to his sister in Ohio. That was a mistake. Although her sister took the house, the ghost that haunted the mansion disliked her, maybe because she was a female. After spending only one night in the estate, Maud attacked the new owner and scared the poor woman beyond words. Carter refused to take the house back, so his sister gave the mansion to their older brother. He also spent one night in the beautiful house and swore never to go back. Maud made their stay at night a living hell. She attacked the man's wife and daughter, brutally scratching them. Then she opened the mansion's front door, allowing anyone to enter. She continued haunting by walking the floors, bumping the furniture, and moaning loudly. The story goes that Carter's brother locked the house down, which has continued to sit empty over the years. Rumor has it that no one can spend time at the estate, and the ghost that haunts the manor won't have anyone in her home. I visited the outside of this haunted house. The house sits overlooking a golf course built years after Carter's brothers sold the land, and at the time I wasn't allowed inside. The old house sits above hole number 9, just before making the turn. I asked the golf pro about this house, and he told me the story. I asked if I could spend the night there, and he told me he would check. He didn't see any problem with me doing so. Please understand that that house still looks great. Its roof is metal and hasn't rusted. The outside is stone, and the windows still look new. The house looks great outside, and I was told the inside looked the same. The yard is thick with briars and weeds, and no one takes care of it, but the house itself boasts its beauty. A few weeks after I visited the old place, I called the golf pro and requested once more permission to spend the night in the house. I was told no. The golf pro told me the estate would be torn down and a new country club and hotel would be constructed on the land. I still wonder how many guests would wake to find a ghostly figure in their room. I continue to ask myself if the ghost of Maud DeAngelo would finally go to her resting place in Italy, or if she would stay and haunt the workers and guests of the newly built facilities. Only time will tell, but my guess is she'll never leave that area. I think she's taken up residence in the new facility, and many innocent people will feel her wrath over the following years. Carter and April's life began anew. Both have reported their new home is ghost free, and their memories of the Franklin estate have been cast aside. To them, the house wasn't worth the torment April suffered. I often wonder why spirits like Maud DeAngelo become so mean. I wonder if she was a miserable person in life, or if the act of removing the gates from her tomb provoked and inflamed this apparition. I guess I'll never know, but one thing for sure, the ghost of Maud DeAngelo is not to be trifled with. If you dare, you might receive a taste of her wrath. I hope you enjoyed this story. I played golf at this course, and standing outside looking at this magnificent house gave me the heebie jeebies. It was as if something inside was watching me. Thank you for visiting Scary and Bizarre Short Stories. If you would, please subscribe and give this story a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. As always, thank you for visiting my channel.